Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Michael,
And I'm Molly.
and we are here today to discuss another week of Big Brother 27, as well as the brand new season of Survivor Australia, which is the long awaited, highly anticipated Australia versus the World season. And I cannot wait to get into that. But first, before we talk about either of those shows, actually, we're going to do a just very quick overall highlights of Perfect Match Season 3, which we have not covered yet on the pod, but we just kind of wanted to go through high level. If you didn't watch Perfect Match, if you're not into that, just fast forward 5 minutes or less. And we are just very, very basic overview of that. But Molly, what were your thoughts just overall on that season?
Yeah, this was a wild season. I feel like overall Perfect Match can be an interesting show with most of the couples don't typically last coming out of this, which kind of defeats the purpose of a dating show. But then for this season, we knew going into it that we had a successful couple because it was spoiled to us that Ollie and AD ended up actually getting engaged after the show and also now pregnant. So it's like, well, we're watching this now and like a year ago, this is what this happened. And now we already have that we knew that they were still together. But then the rest of the season, I feel like there just weren't super strong couples besides for them. I mean, there were obviously hiccups between a lot of these couples in this show and like with different dates that they had to go on with exes showing up and like all that kind of stuff. So it was just all around an interesting one, but I mean I still enjoyed watching it. I just don't think it's my favorite show.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it was a good move for them to bring it in. So this was the first time that they ever brought in people from other shows, other networks into the fold here. So we had Rachel and Clayton from The Bachelor. We had Juliet from Siesta Key. And I think that that was a smart move. We, of course, Justine from Love Island, iconic, and Scott and Carrington from Love Island as well. So I really thought that that was a smart move of them because I think it brings in other audiences and that's all. It's a little bit weird just because this kind of started as like a Netflix Avengers All Stars type of show, so now it kind of just it's like when the challenge started taking people from all around the world versus just MTV. I think at some point it's smart to do that just to kind of bring in people from other fan bases, but I think yeah, it was a lot of X's this season that they brought in that caused drama. So it was fun. I just think I the long wait between seasons is hard for me. Like I think knowing that this filmed a year ago and so much has happened since then in their lives, and we don't even get a reunion in real time to go over that. That to me would at least make it a little bit more palatable if we could get an update of where they are today in a reunion type setting versus just like a little 5 minute YouTube clip that we're probably going to get at some point during the week with updating them. So I don't know. It's fine. I agree. It's not my favorite show in the world. I think the winners have always been kind of WTF choices. We got Daniel and Lucy as our winners this year, and we know that they are no longer together in real time, of course, that they didn't last long. So, you know, it was fine.
Yeah, and what's crazy too, because it's been a year, there's been other things that were like not able to be shown. Like obviously we got the AD and Ollie stuff, but Hannah, who was also technically on the season, not really shown. They edited her out mainly except for when she was in the mixers. So she is now pregnant and engaged to someone that she met like prior to being in reality TV, but I read her post today actually. And so like she had to not share anything, sign an NDA to not spoil anything, and she wasn't even shown. So she was like just confused with why that happened for her. Also QT, who was supposed to be on this season, also barely shown here. So it's also like, well, why did Perfect Match decide to do that? Like there were probably interesting storylines they could have included. They just decided not to.
Yeah, it's weird to just completely erase QT and Hannah and then promote them as main cast members and have them promoting the show, not knowing that they are not in the show, basically. It's just a weird thing. And I don't know. My theory is just that maybe because both of their shows have been canceled, QT and Hannah, and that maybe it was just because they already knew that they didn't play an integral role in the show, that they were like, well, we're not trying to necessarily promote the shows that they come from anyways, and they're two that didn't come from love shows. They're kind of the exceptions in a lot of ways. And so I guess it was just kind of an easy thing for them to say, let's focus the airtime on the people that played a bigger role in the season and not try to make it equal and fair because they're just easy to cut out. So why waste the airtime? But as somebody who loved both of their shows and loved them, especially
Yeah.
QT, it sucks. But and it sucks for them, of course, more than anything. But yeah, it was. It's a fun watch. If you haven't watched it, it's a fun, quick watch, mindless, and you know, not a ton to say about it, but it was fun. So we wanted to just kind of quickly bring that up. But let's get into the meat of things here. Big Brother 27, another week in the books. We pick up with after Ava's nominations, where she nominated Keanu, Vince, and Zach. Vince was her target. Zach is surprised and angry that Ava went back on her word because we saw last week that he was told by Ava basically just as soon as she won HOH, you're fine, you're good, don't worry about it. And then and at that time she really did believe that because she was planning on nominating Ashley instead. But then of course as we talked about last week, Mickey and Ash and who else was it? Morgan? No, it
Or
was someone
no.
else that Mickey primarily though I think was the one who basically was like, no, don't do Ashley. Not the right time for that. She's an ally. We don't want to put her in danger. And so she went back on that and decided to nominate Zach instead. And we knew that Ava had this big nomination speech that she had been talking about on the feeds, and she had kind of been practicing it, quoting it afterwards. Rachel was telling her this is going to be iconic and great television. And then we get to last week's episode, and there was nothing that we saw of her speech, basically. And we're like, what the hell? Why did they cut that out? So we saw at the beginning of this episode that they flashed back, which is a very rare thing for Big Brother to do. And I don't know why they chose to do it this way, but they did show us her full speech, or at least more of it, where she called Vince Vinny the Lip. And it was really funny because she had forgotten his last name. And she had also forgotten his last name when she was practicing it, and somebody told her. And then she forgot it again during the actual thing. So a funny moment. She said that Vince was a gardener because he's planting all these seeds, and so it was a cute speech, and I'm glad we got to see it.
Yeah, I think they had so much backlash online of like, where is the speech? We want to see it aired on actual TV because people who don't watch live feeds aren't even going to get to witness this. So I'm glad that they showed it, and it was a good moment. And yeah, I felt like I'm glad they rounded that out because they kind of needed to.
Yeah, I was really happy when I saw that because that was something that was just such a big topic of conversation amongst the house in the days following that. So I'm glad that the general public and we had got to see the actual moment because we had heard about it, but we never actually saw it, and so
Yeah.
I'm glad we did end up getting to see that. Then Zach, Vinny, and Morgan are talking, and they think that Mickey may have had something to do with Ava's nominations, since she was one of very few people who Ava had actually had a one on one with prior to noms. We saw her say when she first won HOH she wasn't going to do one on ones, and Mickey was one of the few people who she did talk with. So, I mean, I can understand certainly them feeling like maybe Mickey pushed her in a certain direction, but I also get frustrated during these conversations because it really feels like they just discount Ava as being able to make her own decisions. And it's like, oh, well, somebody must have gotten in her ear because Ava would never come up with this on her own. She would never be willing to make this big move and nominate these three guys on her HOH, little Ava. And it's frustrating because no, Ava has autonomy over her own decisions and she made these decisions by herself.
Yeah. No, I was annoyed about that too because they just are discounting Ava's abilities and her strategic thinking. But I mean, like she did think about it. It wasn't Mickey's influence there.
No, really not at all. And I mean, Mickey, sure, she did have something to do with Ashley not being put up and Zach being put up instead. But otherwise, no. I mean, Ava really, like, as soon as she became HOH, she had these nominations set, and she knew that she wanted to do Keanu and Vince right away. So I think that they need to give her more credit, and it does slightly worry me that, let's say Ava makes final two. I think that I worry that potentially some of these people will not be willing to give her the credit that she deserves for making moves that she made, and they will just credit other people for those.
Yeah, I know. I hope that doesn't happen though.
I hope not either, but we have a long ways to go for that. So anything can happen.
Right.
But Morgan makes a comment to Will and Ashley saying that Ava nominated three shields, three big guys, big targets. So when one of them goes home, could become the next target herself. Will and Ashley viewed this as kind of a threat, which concerns them because they're close to Ava. And so they go and tell Mickey this, and Mickey tells Ava. And then this really makes Ava turn sour on Morgan, who then she says, well, if she has a problem with my nominations, frankly, that's Ava's big thing, is she's been
Yeah.
saying, frankly, she can be the replacement nom then. She can go up on the block herself if she has an issue with those nominations. And look, I love this energy from Ava. I love somebody who's just like, okay, you have a problem with me? Well, I have a problem with you. Go up right on the block.
Yeah, no, I love when she says frankly.
Taryn does the
But
best impression of her. Just anyone who hasn't heard Taryn's live feed updates impersonating both Vince and Ava are my two favorite
yeah,
impressions that he does. They're amazing.
those are good. But yeah, I feel like overall, like it is Ava's HOH. Like you don't want to piss her off here. So the fact that Morgan just trying to weasel her way again, just Ava's reaction there was the right reaction.
Yeah. Well, Will and Kat are picked to play veto along with Ava, Keanu, Vince, and Zach. It's the Yankee swap veto where each person's eliminated, they pick a prize. Some are good, some are bad. Then the next person eliminated can choose to keep the prize they pick or swap for one that's already been chosen. It's a classic. We get it almost every season. Will is the first eliminated here, and as always, the first person out gets the veto, which they're not going to keep, of course. Keanu is next out and gets the partners in crime punishment. So this is something that where it wasn't explained quite at the time, but we know from when it happens later that they are trying to. There's two people that get picked for it, and they are robbing a bank, and so they have to open envelopes with money, and some of them have goo in them that then they're slimed in the face, and they have to keep going until they find a certain amount of clean money that without goo, and put that away. And then once they're done with all that, which takes hours and hours, it took all night, then they're able to leave the backyard and stop. So we often get things like that, punishments from this competition where it kind of lasts all night. They have to do something for a certain amount of time, and it was a fun version of that, I thought.
Yeah.
But he swaps that for the veto, so Will is stuck with that at the moment. Then Zach is out third, and he gets a London vacation, which he swaps with Will. It was a really heartwarming moment, I thought this was, where he swaps this with Will because he knows that Will wants to go on a vacation like this. So he ends up with the partners in crime punishment, which he ends up sticking with, and he ends up doing that with Rachel. But that London vacation moment, I really love that moment.
Yeah, I agree. It was so sweet. I'm glad that Will got is gonna get that with his wife, so that'll be really great.
Yeah, and it's moments like this. I think this was a smart move of Zach actually, because whether he, this, I think this was fully not a game move, but it also works as a game move pretty well to get someone like Will on your side, and I think that it works out twofold, where it's a really heartwarming moment, and I love things like that on this show where you can tell, look, these people, they might throw each other under the bus in the game and have issues with each other, not be in the same alliances, but at the end of the day, this is something that for now 40 something days that they've all been going through this together, and they really do have a special bond with each other after that long of time being stuck in a house together.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Ava is out next and gets the butler costume punishment. She swaps this with Keanu for the veto, and Keanu, of course, as we know, ends up sticking with this butler costume. It's pretty hilarious. It's a costume though where he looks like a butler and has a large derriere, and he has to serve different platters to the house with the tray on his large derriere, and it's really funny.
It was funny. I'm glad that he had this one because I just felt like it honestly kind of suited him in ways too because he like added the accents and all this stuff. Like it was just fun to see him do that.
Yeah. It, Big Brother, sometimes I get embarrassed that I say that I watch the show. It's one of those moments when you see someone like Keanu in this costume, and then we're about to get to someone that has another costume, and when all of this is going on in one week, it's like, well, what are we doing here? But it's also really funny.
Yeah, it's like it's Halloween.
Yeah, it feels like it. It really does feel like it sometimes watching this show. Vince comes in second place and he gets 5K. He swaps that for the veto. So Ava ends up with the 5K. And Kat ends up winning this competition. So she opens her briefcase, which has the hard boiled detective costume, which is the other costume I was referring to that we had this week. She swaps that for Vince's veto. So Vince ends up with the hard boiled detective costume, which I mean, if I liked Keanu's costume, this is the best costume I think we've ever had on Big Brother. It is hilarious, and I think it fits the theme of the season, which I love, which Keanu's did as well. And it's just so funny to just watch people talking to a gigantic egg all week.
I know. That was great. And I was actually worried. I was like, is he gonna have to compete like this in the blockbuster? Like, is he gonna be wearing the head costume still? And with Keanu in the butler costume, like that would have been amazing. But they did get to change, spoiler alert. But
But it's
yeah,
just so funny, like seeing them on the block together
yeah.
in these costumes together. It's just, they couldn't have asked for anything more, I think, with these.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And it almost felt like Catherine almost felt bad and didn't swap it with Vince because then Vince was like just begging her to keep, he wanted to keep the veto so he could save himself. But obviously, then Catherine didn't listen to that.
Yeah. Well, Catherine does end up with the veto here. Now, Ashley tells Rachel that the conversations Mickey, Morgan, Vince, and Zach have had make it seem like they don't want her to make it very far into the jury. This makes Rachel feel like she's disposable to them. And Rachel and Morgan then have a conversation in the storage room, which turns into an argument because Morgan, yet again, tells Rachel directly that she wants her in jury. Now, Morgan claims that she means that as I want you to make it to the benchmark, a checkpoint in the game, jury. And that doesn't mean that I want you in the jury house. It means that I want you to make it as far as being in this jury stage of the game.
Yeah.
And I get that those are two very different things, but the way that people have been talking about it is not that way. They have not been saying, Morgan and Mickey and Vince and Zach and all them, that they want to take Rachel far in the game. They are saying, we want her to be kind of the foreperson of the jury because they think that she will be somebody who makes a logical decision for somebody to win, and she's not going to be bitter, and she won't be make a personal choice, that Rachel respects the game enough, has been in this game for so long that she will be able to see clearly who played the best game and vote for that person. And having her kind of as one of the first people in jury will kind of set the tone and allow everybody else in the jury to also make those logical decisions. So Rachel gets upset because she's tired of people treating her this way and hearing that people are saying this about her, especially because she doesn't want to just if she's going to go home, she wants to go home now. We've talked about this. It's
Yeah.
better for her to go home pre-jury so she can go back to her family rather than sitting in the jury house for a month. That's why when Mickey was HOH, that she potentially wanted her to put her up and send her home then. So she kind of just explodes on Morgan and says, "Your whole group is crazy if you think I'm going to jury. You can tell your friends with an S," and that becomes a whole thing that I'm not going to jury. That if I make it to that point, then I'm going to do everything that I can to make it to final two.
Yeah, no, I love seeing this clip. I feel like over like I had seen it from the feeds, but also seen it like on the episode. Like obviously, like the way that Morgan was coming about the conversation, I just I know Rachel just knew like she knew what Morgan was saying like that as a checkpoint like wasn't really what she meant, and so that's why Rachel was like, no, like that's not gonna happen. And I love when she said she's played with better. um,
Yeah, I
and that,
love that.
yeah, so she's just like dissing everyone else in the cast basically, and saying that they're not good at playing Big Brother, which is accurate. So I love Rachel here. So I'm just happy that I hope that she continues and doesn't just make it there as a checkpoint, but continues and makes far. Or if she doesn't make it there, then she's going home to see her family.
Yeah. Yeah, you can tell Rachel is just so fed up with all of these people and their crazy gameplay. And she's like, what am I doing here? Like, she knows how. I saw a post on Blue Sky or Twitter earlier today where it was like, this is exactly how Suri felt on BB25, where she was like, I have played with the likes of Parvati Shallow and Boston Rob, and now I am playing with crazy people who are making insane decisions. And I feel like Rachel kind of feels the same way, where she's like, I've played traders with Suri and all these people and like the best of the best of the best of strategy games, and now I'm playing with like the likes of these people that are volunteering to go on the block and taking out their allies and not using powers on themselves that end up getting them sent home. And it's just like, what are we doing here? And I love watching Rachel slowly spiral into madness.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, before things got heated with their conversation, Morgan also told Rachel that some people may be afraid to break up the showmance, I mean, Kat and Riley, which calling them a showmance is generous. Rachel then, because she's now pissed at Morgan, takes this information to Catherine, telling her that Morgan said everybody wants to break them up. So, not exactly what she said, but it's close enough. I think like this is kind of the perfect, slightly twisting her words to where it makes it sound really bad to Catherine, but it is based on truth of what she did say. So she is trying to basically get Morgan up as the renom. Like she is so pissed at Morgan at this point, and this was happening last week, like when as we were recording with Mike Bloom, and we were like, "What is going to happen here?" And this she I don't think that this was shown on the episode, but she also Rachel goes up to Ava at this point and says, let's put Morgan up, like let's use the veto. And Ava's like, well, frankly, I don't know that we need to do that. And she wasn't really that into it, so it didn't end up turning into anything. And Ava, we did see on the episode Ava talk with Catherine and basically she tells Catherine, do what you want with it, like I don't care, because she would put up Morgan if she was going to put up anyone.
Yeah.
So it was basically a matter of, do we want to use it at all and leave everything the same, or put up Morgan? And so Catherine does not end up using the veto. I think she was too afraid of what all the madness that she might cause if she used it. It was a little bit just too risky for her to do that, and she didn't really care much either way. She's totally fine with any of the three going home. Do you think that that was the right move for Kat?
Yeah, I think so, because then it doesn't really put a target on her from anyone in particular to say, like, oh, well, she used it on this person. Like, she just stayed true and wanted to remain kind of like neutral there.
Yeah, and I think there was always the possibility that she thought Riley could end up going. So I think it was just kind of like, let's not risk it.
Yeah.
So, most surprisingly, though, is that Zach does not use his 10K veto power. And he cites wanting to save Morgan as his reason. He said, "Well, I know that Morgan would be the renom if it got used, and I wanted to save her. Thought that I had the votes to stay regardless, so it didn't really matter. I could keep it in my back pocket." I mean, this is just incredibly insane, though, because he had talked to Morgan before this, and Morgan said, "This is a close vote." Like, she's like, "You know that, though. It's a close vote." And Zach heard that, and I don't understand how he keeps going on these interviews now afterwards and all this stuff saying, "I didn't know that it was going to be close until like the next day," when he was told this. And
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
I know. It's crazy that he didn't choose to use his 10K. And then, as the beginning episode stated, that he was like, "Oh, I don't want to give this up to Ava." Also, he seemed like he just didn't want to give away the money to Ava for putting him up there, also. But then it did seem like the Morgan reason was then becoming more of the reason. But then it's like, well, like, you have to think about yourself in the game too. Like, can't just think about these other people, and you're not like winning it for them, like you're winning it for yourself. So I think that just was very bad gameplay.
Yeah, I do think that the not wanting to give it to Ava is a bigger part of the reason that he's willing to admit. I do think. I think that he really does not respect Ava. He never did because from the very beginning he said he hates floaters and he doesn't know what a floater is. But I think that he views Ava as a floater, and to him giving someone that is just like he's too prideful. He
Yeah.
doesn't want to give Ava that credit of giving her that money. And I think the other part of it is probably he thought that if he used it, and at that time, he hadn't told anyone about this power. And I think that there was probably a part of him that felt like if he used it and hadn't told anyone, that everyone would feel betrayed by him and that he kept the secret from them. Why did he keep the secret? And I can actually, like, if he were to say that that was the reason for it, like, I could at least logically understand that a little bit more. But the whole, like, well, I knew Morgan was going to go up. It's like, well, you're now up. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't, it's not like you had the chance to just, like, save yourself and all of your allies I
Yeah.
don't know. It just, none of it makes sense, but he's never going to really say that he regrets it or made a mistake. Like, I think he is going to take this kind of holier than thou position and say years from now that he does not regret making it. So what can we do?
Yeah.
Well, this leaves Keanu, Vince, and Zach on the block at the end of the week here. And after the veto meeting, the house guests are all discussing the votes. Morgan wants Keanu out since Vinny and Zach are obviously her closest allies, but she struggles to choose between Vince and Zach if the two of them are on the block together if Keanu were to win the blockbuster competition. Now, originally, she tells Vince that she will choose him to keep him because she is upset that Zach will always choose Lauren over her. And it's kind of funny how everyone in the house, whenever she says, "Well, I don't know who Zach would choose between," and everyone's like, "Yeah, he'd choose Lauren." Like, everyone just like blanketly tells her this, and she's like convinced herself that it would be a tough decision for Zach. But everybody is else can see it for what it is.
Yeah.
Now, once Zach reveals his power to her, then that changes things potentially for her. So he does tell her about it after he decides not to use it. And this makes her feel kind of guilty like, well, if I'm the reason why he didn't use it, I need to save him. So she really considers switching her vote here. But what do you think she should do or have done in this case?
In this moment, I feel like I would have still, like, I don't know. I think it makes sense to still vote to get Zach out, even though like that also was gonna like make her feel worse though, because then she's like, well, he did save me in this way because he didn't use it. But for her game longevity, it does. I think it makes sense for her to keep Vinny.
I agree with that. I think that Vinny just has more connections, has a better game, and I just think that aligning yourself with Vinny is probably better than aligning yourself with Zach. I just think that it's true, like Zach always will have Lauren's back over Morgan's. And I think that whereas Vinny really, I think, would have her. I don't know. I don't even know if that's true though. I don't know. But I think it was more it was a lot more likely that Vince was going to stay versus Zach, I think, for most of the week. So I just think like
Yeah.
kind of not putting yourself on the sinking ship is probably better and just kind of voting in the majority where it was more likely to go in that vote, I think was the better decision for her.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Mickey tells Ashley then that she thinks she can control the vote no matter who ends up remaining on the block. Ashley wants Vince out, but if he doesn't win the blockbuster. But she gets frustrated when she feels like Mickey just isn't listening to her and she's trying to be the dictator, as she called it, the Mictator. I liked that. And it really does feel like when Mickey talks to Ashley in particular, like she's talking to down to Ashley. I always get the sense of, and it's like, well, let me do the work and I'll tell you what to do later. And it's just like, that's never a good way to talk to your allies. Like, even if Mickey feels that way, let's just say Mickey feels like she needs to baby Ashley in the game and that she can't trust Ashley and that she's just going to, she thinks she's a better player than Ashley, whatever it may be. Just make Ashley feel like you are equals with her and that Ashley has some input and that you are taking her input into consideration because even if you're not, people like to feel that way. And I just think, especially in a game like this, you want everybody, your allies, to feel like their voice is heard.
Yeah. Well, she's definitely not making her feel that way because then Ashley went to talk to Will about it and really not happy. So I think that Mickey needs to just not talk like that and or just gonna just dig her own grave. So I guess that's a good thing. But I feel like yeah, she needs to be better at her social game for sure.
It really feels like something switched when she got HOH, and that
Yeah.
she got this HOHitis disease that she can't shake. That it's like she feels like she has been in control of the house ever since then, and she just needs to get off of whatever HOH medication that is making her this continuing disease that she's gotten since then. And it's just like, Mickey, go back to the Mickey that we saw the first few weeks that was so great and had such a good game sense and was so good socially. And it's just like ever since then, I don't know what switched in her. But I guess some people, when they get that taste of power, they can't let it go.
I know. Yeah. So hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. Well, then Kelly and Riley talk and they agree they want to keep Keanu in the house and get out Vince or Zach, whichever one is next to him. Uh, so it feels like there's a lot of I don't know, there's a lot this really kept changing and shifting throughout the week. Like there was never a clear idea of who was going home last week for most of the week, which was so fun to watch. Like it's so rare that you get that with three nominees that it was like all the permutations of it were constantly shifting and it was just it felt so close like it was just like one vote here or there could switch the whole thing and going into this BB blockbuster it was really really exciting and it was a stacking puzzle so they had to get the gemstones that are all the same colors all together on the post of that color by moving them one at a time. It kind of feels like one of those like I don't know, like phone games that you play.
Yeah.
It was fun.
I know. I liked watching it. They just were doing such a like they were going so slow at actually completing this puzzle that I felt like I had it in my head already because I've been watching those games. I don't play them myself, but I watch like the ads of them and then like
Mm,
always finish it.
yeah.
You know, like when it's like continue watching, I always
Right.
click continue watching. But I know it's just those games are fun. So I was kind of like, well, I feel like they should do better at this. But they ended up like, I don't know. I mean, they still finished it in the live episode. Obviously, it wasn't like forever taking them, but it did feel like a long time watching them.
Yeah, none of them were fantastic. I felt like Zach was going really fast at first and then slowed down a lot. And I was not expecting Keanu to win this, to be honest with you.
No.
I had a bad feeling when I saw what competition it was, and I was wrong. Keanu ended up winning this, and the worst part though was that Keanu, all right up until the feeds uh, ended right before the live show, Keanu was talking to Rachel about throwing the blockbuster competition, and Rachel was begging him not to do it. And it really felt like she was not getting through to him. But then I was very thankful when he ended up pressing the button because he was like, "Well, if I see that Vinny is second, then I'll just let him win it, and so I can be next to Zach, and Zach goes home." And Rachel was like, "No, you don't have the votes." And so when he kind of slowly started walking over to the buzzer, I was like, "Oh no, he's throwing it. He's not going to press it. He's just going to like stand there and watch." And he ended up pressing it. So I was like, "Oh, thank God." Keanu won, and we got Vinny and Zach on the block, and it was like the most exciting potential outcome. And we never get this. It's like it feels like this season it is happening a lot though recently in the last few weeks where it's like we just need something to happen to make the most exciting TV, and it happens. So I'm very happy.
It was good. I know. I was happy that Keanu didn't throw that.
Me too. Well, then, Zach is evicted here in a vote of 8-2. Rachel and Will are the only votes for Vince. Rachel, not surprised by that. She's been targeting Vince. Vince been targeting her. She was really rallying for Vince to go here. Will, I think, is just one of those people who doesn't care about going with the house. He's just going to vote for who he wants to vote for. Ashley was expected to vote for Vince as well, but I think she kind of towards the end was like, well, I should vote with the house, because especially because last week, that whole fiasco, I think she was like, let's not do that again. So
Yeah.
she ended up voting with the house. But yeah, Rachel and Will, I think, both knew that Zach was going home here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Will just wanted to not vote for Zach because he gave him the London trip also, which it
That's
made
true.
sense. Yeah. That he was just like, I couldn't do that.
That's very true. That I did forget about that. Yes, that is a very good point. Then during his talk with Julie, though, this was a very fun moment. Let me just story time here. Back in Big Brother 3, Marcellus Reynolds, famously the first season that had the veto, he was on the block and he won the veto and did not use it on himself. Famously, he then gets evicted blindsided, and when he gets out of the house, Julie slaps him with her note card and says, "What were you thinking?" So when this potential was had for Zach to, or when he decided not to use his power, and there was potential for him to go home, everybody was saying online, we need Julie to slap him with her note card. If he goes home here and he didn't use his power, she's got to slap him. And she did. And it was very fun. I was so happy to see that. And it's just like, Zach, what were you doing?
I know. I'm glad Julie did that. That was iconic. But I feel like he even knows he was dumb to not do that, and he's just taking the high road, I guess, and being like, "Well, it's okay. I didn't want Morgan to go home, but now you're going home."
Yeah, yeah, he will never admit it, but yeah, I think he knows deep down. I think he knows how that he should have done it, and he will say that, "Oh, I really thought I was safe at the time." Blah blah blah. It really doesn't matter if you think you're like this. You're on the block. Like you have to use it. This is not the same thing as not using your idol on Survivor, because not using your idol on Survivor, there are so many other options of people that could be voted for. The chance that it's you, if you really don't think it's you, like if you were being blindsided, it's a one in whatever chance, eight, nine, potentially, like however big the tribe is at that time, there is a really good chance it's not you. But with Zach, you're one of three people that like, there's a 33% chance at the very least that it's you, and you know that there's not that it's going to be a close vote. People are telling you that it's not obvious. You should know based on your staying in the house that it's not obvious. So it didn't make any sense game wise, but we could talk this to death. So it's
Yeah,
over and done.
exactly.
And after the eviction, Mickey tells Ashley, Will, and Ava and Morgan that they need to get rid of Keanu and Rachel, that those are her targets. Ashley, Ava, and Will are not on board with this though, with targeting Rachel because they like Rachel. They're aligned with Rachel, and they're like, "What are you doing, Mickey? Why are we getting rid of Rachel?" So Ava goes and tells Rachel that Mickey and Morgan might potentially put her up if they win HOH, and that really makes Rachel realize she's on the outs with the house. I think she already kind of knew that, but hearing it confirmed is like, we got to do something here. I gotta win HOH.
Yeah. No, I'm glad that Ava went to tell her that because it definitely gave Rachel that fire and just wanting to win. So I'm
Yeah,
glad that she told her.
I am too. It's good, especially right going into HOH. It's good to have that fire. You need that
Yeah.
fire under, especially I think Rachel is somebody who it's like, I'm on the bottom. I got to fight. I mean, we saw this in BB 12, 13. It was like she was always on the bottom. And so she always went into these HOH competitions with this fire. And oftentimes she won them. So it was going into this one. It was really a lot of do or die situation, like she's used to from her past. And the HOH competition is Party Slasher, so it's a memory comp where they study 6 rooms and memorize as many details as possible. Each round they get a clue, and based on that, have to pick a room to hide in where they will be safe. Very fun competition. I loved this. It reminded me a lot of that Nether Gorgon competition from BB25, but I think this was a much better version because it wasn't so much about speed, and there weren't like in that competition there were only so many option like people that could be hiding in one space, and so if you just weren't fast enough you couldn't save yourself, whereas this time it was just all about memory.
Yeah. No, I really like this too. And their outfits were fun, the prom theme. So it was a good competition. I liked it.
Yeah, it's given budget. A lot of this season is actually giving budget, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So Rachel ends up winning this. Morgan is second, which is a close call
I
there.
know.
Very different week we have if Morgan wins. So Rachel Reilly in 2025 is HOH again. So exciting. I'm so glad. I was worried that Rachel would leave this season and not win a competition, which would have been really devastating. So if nothing else, if she doesn't win anything else, I'm really glad she got a HOH.
Yes, I am too. And I know at the end there, I mean, we already knew that Rachel was HOH, so it wasn't surprising to see her win. But if I hadn't known that and just watching the episode, I would have been so nervous at the
I
end
know.
there. I would have been like, oh my gosh, this is going to go either great or really badly. So it's great that I went in the great direction.
Yeah, for entertainment and stakes purposes, they could not have picked a better two to make it to the last round there. So
Yeah.
it was very nerve-wracking, very high stakes if you didn't know what the outcome was going to be, but it ended up very good for at least for us, I would say.
Yes.
Some people may not be a fan of Rachel, but we are. So Ashley tells Rachel that Morgan has been the main one pushing that Rachel needs to go. Rachel also wants to nominate Mickey, but Ashley's a little bit more hesitant about that. Ashley is close with Mickey, and I think doesn't really want to see her on the block. Vince also tries to talk to Rachel and smooth things over, but Rachel's not having it. I really thought that conversation was funny, where Vince was like, I don't think this is going well. Like, I think I might end up on the block. There might not be much that I can say to save myself. So, and he's right about that. So I thought that was kind of a funny conversation because clearly those two have just been going at each other for weeks now.
Yeah, no, that was funny. I mean, obviously we knew that Rachel wanted to target him, but then hearing them talking, just Vince just knew it from then as well.
Yeah. Well, Mickey goes and talks to Rachel. Now, they have two conversations that we see on the show here. The first is when Rachel is in the bathtub, and they have a very vague conversation where Rachel's kind of just sussing her out and trying to see, like, look, I've heard that you're coming after me, but I haven't heard it from your mouth or like gotten that sense directly. I don't have any proof of that. So she's kind of seeing how Mickey's answering questions and Mickey's kind of getting frustrated by the vagueness of it all. But then they have another conversation. Now, this was on the feed right before Noms. This was like a 2 hour conversation. This was a marathon. And we saw, I feel like they did a pretty good job of summarizing it though. So Rachel tells Mickey that she feels like she's been betrayed by her since the Jimmy vote, where she really didn't take Rachel's feelings or suggestions into account at all and just went rogue and didn't really consider Rachel's game in making these decisions. And Mickey's just spending all the time trying to defend getting Jimmy out, saying, I thought this was best for both of our games, and Jimmy was doing all this stuff, and he was targeting me, targeting Morgan, and Rachel's like, no, he wasn't. Like, this is all wrong. You're getting wrong information, and you made that decision based on wrong information, and Mickey just won't have it. And this is where I think Mickey's big mistake is that I think whether she believes it or not, Mickey just needs to tell Rachel, like, look, I'm sorry. Like I wouldn't make that same decision now, knowing the information that I know, but clearly I was being fed wrong information by somebody, and I apologize. I know that that was bad for your game, and I think that if she would say things like that, Rachel would accept it and be like, okay, let's move forward. Like, I think she really likes Mickey and she wants to work with Mickey and trust Mickey, but I just think like without her ever feeling like she can see what she did was a mistake there, I just don't think they'll ever be able to repair that.
Yeah, I agree. I just think Mickey's just too in her head about thinking she's right and isn't going to listen to Rachel's opinion on it. So I think it's just a done deal.
Yeah. So Mickey does do one good thing, though, I would say, here in this conversation, that she throws Kelly under the bus with some facts. And she tells Rachel that Kelly said that Rachel felt like Mickey was icing her out. Now, Rachel knows that this is true. She did tell Kelly this. And so she's like, well, crap. I guess I can't trust Kelly. So after their conversation is over, and this was not on feed, so we didn't really know that this happened, she goes and confronts Kelly about it, and Kelly admits it. She said, I messed up. Sorry. I'm such an instigator. And so she apologizes to Rachel, but this really makes Rachel question things. And she's like, should I do Mickey or Kelly? Like, Kelly clearly betrayed me, but I still don't really know that I can trust Mickey. And with all the Jimmy stuff, that I think she was really weighing those options. And she ends up going with Mickey, so she nominates Vince Morgan and Mickey. Do you think that was the right decision?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's more weighing on the fact of what happened with Mickey than with Kelly. Like Kelly obviously betrayed her trust in some way, but like not to the extreme that Mickey has. So it definitely makes more sense to keep Mickey up there instead of having Kelly.
Yeah, and I think it's really the way that both of them handled the situation when confronted. When Rachel talked to Mickey, she was unwilling to admit or apologize that she may have made mistakes during her HOH reign. But when she confronted Kelly, she just admitted to it and she was like, hey, yeah, sorry, I messed up. I shouldn't have said that. I apologize. And I think that goes a long way. And I think if those had been reversed, like if Kelly had tried to deny it or push back at all. And if Mickey had just apologized and owned up to it, then I think that we may have seen a different nomination there, because I think it's a lot easier to work with somebody who's willing to admit when they're wrong than it is to work with somebody who won't ever admit that they were wrong.
Yep, very true.
Well, let's get into some feed spoilers then, because that's where we left things in the episode. Now, we have played veto competition. It was OTEV, classic, and Lauren ends up winning it. Apparently, it was a very short competition again. We saw last season it was only one round. I think it was 3 rounds this time, it sounds like, so still very short. But it seems like she's most likely not using the veto. So there's not a ton to report here. There have been some conversations, I believe, tonight that she might decide to use it on Vince. If that happens, Kelly would likely be the renom. I am going to assume and guess that she's not going to use it because that's kind of where she's been set at for all day yesterday and today. But there is a chance that that could change. I have not watched feeds in the last few hours, so I'm just kind of seeing things online. So I don't know how much she's really considering this, but I'm gonna assume that this doesn't get used. What do you think she should do?
I would say she doesn't use the veto, and then the noms just remain the same. I think with Lauren's position here, like she doesn't really need to use it on Vince at this point. Like I don't know. I don't know if he's the main target of this. I mean, obviously it could be anyone at this time in the day. Like we don't
Yeah.
know. But I don't think it's necessary for her to use it this week.
I agree. I don't think she should use it. Vince is obviously like her number one ally, so it's hard not to,
Yeah.
I'm sure. But I think that she knows that using it could potentially upset. It would cause a lot of chaos because Catherine and Riley are really trying to get her not to use it, and they are also allies of Lauren's. And I think that they are afraid that one of them could end up being the renom. And so I think that Lauren understands that they are scared of that, and her using it might really upset them. Even if they don't end up being the renoms, they could kind of be like, well, you were okay with us potentially being the renoms. Like, you don't know that we weren't going to be picked for that. So I think that it could give her a bit of a headache. And Kelly also is somebody who Lauren likes and wants to work with. And so Kelly going up also is bad for her. So I think all in all, I think that it's best for her not to use it, and I think that she will probably come to that conclusion.
Yes, agreed. And we'll find out shortly.
Yes, we will. Well, I'm so excited to talk about this. So let's get into some Australian Survivor AU versus the world premiere. Molly, take it
Yeah.
away.
Yes, so this is very exciting. It's my first time watching an Australian Survivor season, so I'm really excited for that. Obviously, had seen David from Deal or No Deal Island when he won $5 million. So,
Six million
he oh
almost.
sorry, 6 million, yeah, 5.7. I was rounding down instead of rounding up because you don't know how many he gets with taxes.
Sure, sure.
But but yeah, and also with Parvati, of course, on here as well, which is also great to see because we have the world, which comprises of three US, Tony, Suri, and Parvati, and then four from other places around the world who I hadn't heard of before. I don't know if you did, Michael, but they all had at least one a season prior to being here.
Yeah, so I had not heard of any of them before this cast got announced or leaked, at least. I have
Yeah.
not watched any of their seasons still, so I have seen Australian Survivor. I have not seen every season of Australian Survivor, but at least one with everybody on this cast. So, like, back when
Okay.
this was filmed, I was like, okay, I need to prep for this. So, I'm going to start my Australian Survivor journey. So, I have binged most Australian Survivor seasons, I think season two through like All Star half. I got half. All Stars is a rough season to watch, so I got like halfway. I've seen the two most recent ones, Titans versus Rebels and Heroes versus Villains, and then or three most recent, I guess, with the most recent one that nobody from this cast is from, and then went back to the other seasons that Australian survivors from the season are on. So I've gotten through most of those. So I am familiar with all the Australian survivors and the US survivors on this cast. I have heard things about specifically Rob and Lisa. I think that Tommy and Cass's seasons most Americans had not watched because I don't think they're in English. But Rob and Lisa's seasons, I've talked to people who have seen those seasons, so I got the gist of it from them.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I feel like it's interesting just to hear them already, just like in the show, like talking about some of their experiences, because I obviously know not everyone is familiar with them. So that's been good to see that. But overall, what were your thoughts on this premiere?
Loved it. It was 10 out of 10, no notes. Everything I
Yeah.
could have hoped for and asked for, this premiere gave us. I love because there were so many interesting dynamics pre-season from past seasons of people that knew each other. And it's always a question on this season of, well, how much are we going to get into that? Like, how much are we going to see the people who have a history like interact and discuss their history and their past, and how much is it going to be referenced? And it's always so much fun when it is. But I love that we got things like a flashback to Micronesia to see Suri and Parvati, that we got a whole thing with George and Shawnee, who have an interesting past based on what happened during Australian Survivor Heroes versus Villains. We got to see just all of these different, and David and Parvati with Dondi, their connection that got brought up, which was, I think, a big question mark of whether that would be or not. So
Yeah.
it was so much fun, and I loved everything about it.
Yeah, I agree. I saw the clip of like the first 9 minutes that were revealed the other
Yeah,
day on Instagram, and after seeing that, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this looks like it's going to be the best season ever." So, I mean, it's only 3 weeks long, basically, but I'm so excited for the TV we're about to see with this season
yeah.
because it's already gearing up for an amazing season.
Yeah, no, Australian Survivor, the production value is top notch with the
Yeah.
intros and everything.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just, it's so different from US Survivor, but I
Yeah.
love the way that they do it. The one thing that Australian Survivor I think does worse than current US Survivor is a little bit more old school in its editing, in the sense that US Survivor in the new era really tries to give everybody their fair share of screen time. They try to really hard to let you get to know every single person on the cast. And Australian Survivor is much more lopsided oftentimes in their editing. Like if somebody is a big character or a main part of the story, they will spend a lot of time on those people, and kind of, we call it in Survivor, purpling somebody, basically just kind of like goes, like they are a non-factor on the season, no screen time. This was very commonplace last season on Survivor Australia, Brains versus Brawn 2, where there was one girl, Morgan, who I think got maybe like two or three confessionals in like 18 episodes.
Oh
Like
my
it
gosh.
was, she was nowhere to be found. And I think like we got her intro video in like episode 14. Like it was craziness. So I don't
Yeah.
think we're gonna get that extreme with this season because it's a smaller cast and a shorter season. So like I don't think it's gonna get that extreme. But I mean, we saw in this episode like Sarah was somebody who got like no screen time. So I feel like that's kind of the one person, but I think they did a decent job in this premiere of basically we got to see a good amount of everyone else.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's only been one premiere so far, so we have plenty more
Yeah.
episodes to see because they come out many like during the weekday. Like the what days are they airing again?
So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, which is
Yeah.
commonplace for Survivor Australia to do 3 episodes a week. I just didn't
Okay.
think they were going to do it for this season because it's already so short. I kind of figured they would maybe do two a week for five
Yeah.
weeks, but no, they're flying through this. They're doing it the whole season in 3 weeks somehow, 10 episodes. So
Yeah, because they're only there for 16 days.
yeah,
So it's also a shorter season or
which I think
shorter
is
amount
smart.
of time.
I think like why doesn't US Survivor do this every so often, like a short
Yeah.
like Legends season? Because I think a lot of people aren't willing to go back for a full 26-day season at this point necessarily, but I think for a short like 16-day season, you're going to get a lot of people who are willing to do it because it's a pretty short filming, and you're probably not going to have as many people turn that down.
Yeah. Agreed. But this is exciting that we at least get some of our favorites here. So I'm hoping that they can make it far, in particular, Suri and Parvati.
Yes.
But we'll have to see. But first up, we get a reward challenge. So one person from each tribe races down a slide, then crawls through a net, and then they throw sandbags at a bell. And then the first one to hit the bell gets to then choose one item from a shelf of options, and then but with those options they include a tarp, pillows and blanket, flint, fruit basket, champagne, tea and coffee, and then a mystery box. So, a wide variety of options here. What would you have wanted to choose, Michael?
This is hard. I think I would be really torn between the flint and the mystery box because the flint is the most important thing. You need to be able to make fire. And that would be very, very tempting to me, but I think that I would probably go with the mystery box because I you want that unknown factor on your beach and not on someone on the other beach because the theories would go crazy if you know the other tribe has a mystery box. You're like, what could it possibly be? And that
Yeah.
would make me go kind of insane, I think, with the just unknown factor of that. So I think you always want that on your side so you can manage it, whether it's good or bad or whatever it is. Like, you want it in your possession and your eyes on it. And then with Flint, like once you go to tribal, you get Flint. So like I would think, okay, we're probably gonna get that in like the next few days anyways at some point when we inevitably go to tribal. So I think yeah, I think I probably would have gone with the mystery box first. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think that just has more at stake with it. So it would have been interesting. We still don't know what's in it, but
Yeah,
we
we still
did see
don't.
the first. Yeah. Well, the first round was Rob versus David. And as they're going up the stairs, they're already talking some strategy here because David proposes working together to get them both deep in the game. And he says that he'll let Rob have input in who goes home from their tribe if he'll return the favor. So then Rob doesn't respond. And then Rob wins that round and then he takes the mystery box. So the first option there was chosen was the mystery box. So
Yeah.
had the same realm of thought as we did.
Yeah. And I
But
loved David just taking advantage of
yeah,
that moment to talk to Rob. Like that is so David.
I know.
He did this on I think it was his first season. I can't remember anymore. I watched all these seasons so quickly. I binged them like within just like weeks, so I get all of my Australian Survivor facts mixed up. I apologize, but I he did do something like that where he was talking to people on the other tribes and making deals and giving people idols from another tribe, giving people fake idols from another tribe. Like it was there was a lot that he was doing, and I loved this. It just felt like classic David Janae.
Yeah, no, it did feel like that, and I'm glad the mics were so strong at that point too. I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, they're still working. I mean, obviously, like it's a show, so they should be working. But I just felt like, wow, we really are hearing them very crisp in these conversations.
Well, and that's not
Um,
a time where they expect game talk to happen.
yeah,
Probably is just like when they're walking up to the challenge. So I'm glad that they were even like listening to that moment and could know that that happened.
yeah. No, I know for sure. And I feel like I was watching with my friend tonight, and they he was saying that in the US seasons, you're not allowed to talk gameplay like in the middle of the challenge like that. But I don't know, is that real or is that just like because Australia they just like have less strict rules on that?
I don't know for sure the answer to that, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I feel like we have seen that before, like people whispering things to each other, like not necessarily long conversations like that. Like this felt
yeah.
like he was saying a lot to him.
I
So
know.
but I feel like we've definitely seen where people will try to like whisper little things like target so and so, like right as they're, like leaving after a challenge or where there's maybe like an idol hidden at a challenge and maybe there's like
Mm,
little whispers going on there or like on the bench during it. I don't know. I feel like we've definitely seen similar enough things where I feel like Survivor is one of those shows where I would always as a contestant I would think ask for forgiveness not for permission. Like just
yeah.
if you have a second to say something to somebody on the other tribe, just do it. And you'll be told if can't do that for some reason. But like, unless you are explicitly told you cannot do this, I'd say just do it and see what happens. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like that was an interesting moment to see that. So I'm glad. I mean, and it did have some sort of realm of talk in this show. I feel like in this episode, because of the Rob David interaction, we see later with Parvati then talking to Rob. But I feel like that has something to do with it too, and why we saw their their conversation there.
Yeah.
Um, but then we have the World Tribe. We go back to their camp there, and we have three Americans, as I said before: Parvati, Suri, and Tony, and they're worried that they'll be targets. So they agree to work together until the merge, to stick USA strong there. Do you think this will last?
No. Short answer, no. I think that I look, I think Suri still has that little bit of wanting to get revenge on Parvati because famously Suri, Parvati, and Amanda made it to Micronesia together to Final Three together, and then Suri got out because there was a surprise Final Two. And I think that she thinks she should have won Micronesia. And I would not be shocked if eventually Suri turns on Parvati. And I think that Suri would turn on, and Parvati would both turn on Tony because they don't have a
Yeah.
long history with Tony like they do with each other. So I actually think they'll probably both turn on Tony first, and then Suri might turn on Parvati, or Parvati would turn on Suri. I think maybe they'll make it to merge. Maybe I think I could see that they would try to at least get to merge together. But merge is coming up pretty quick here. We're only 14 people.
Yeah.
I would assume that merge probably happens around 10. So I think we only have a few weeks. So I could see them, sure. Like I could see them making it a few weeks together, especially if they don't go to every tribal, which they probably won't. So if they only have to last one or two tribals together, I wouldn't be shocked if they did that. But I think as soon as the merge hits, they'll turn on each other.
Yeah, I agree. They're just too strong of players to stick with each other the whole time. So I don't think they'll stay true forever, but for at least the meantime, I think they will.
Yeah.
Um, and then we have a nice moment of Lisa sharing how she's a big fan of Suri and that she wants to work with her. And Suri tells her that she'll not turn against her. And then Lisa struggles whether to go with her or her non US alliance. And so I feel like here Lisa just really wants to work with Suri, but also wants to make sure like she's not going to totally turn on people she thinks that she trusts to work with. So it's an interesting position here, but what do you think about
Lisa is me. I am Lisa. Lisa is starstruck by Suri, and of course,
it?
like Suri is Suri Fields. Like I
Yeah,
mean, she is exactly how I would feel in this situation, where it's like I don't care if I get like misted by Suri, and I happily would be in that position just to like be able to work with Suri for a while. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like it's probably not in your best interest game wise, but I can't help myself. And I mean, it's very similar. I feel like I see a lot of Izzy in Lisa from BB25, where she came in and she's like, I am your biggest fan and I want to work with you and I will be loyal to you till the end. And I think Suri probably sees that in Lisa, that she's somebody who probably won't turn against her, at least for the time being, because she's just very starstruck by her. And we know Lisa is a huge, huge Survivor fan. I mean, she is an RHAP fan and patron. Like, she was wearing an RHAP shirt when she won Survivor New Zealand during her live finale. So like she is a true fan of this show and of Suri, and I just see a lot of myself in her. So I can completely understand her struggle here.
yeah. No, I'm glad that we had this moment also in the show because obviously, like, we know Suri's a legend. So it's nice to hear, like, from other people around the world, too, that they obviously appreciate her game here, too. So that was great to see that. And it does seem like they will work together. So that's nice to see that. But next we had Parvati tell Rob about her Deal or No Deal Island connection to David, and this was in an effort to want to connect with Rob. And she told him that David loves Rob and that he wants to work with him. So then that was in hopes of trying to connect Parvati to Rob here and not have Rob go after her. But then he said he promises to keep that a secret and says that he's interested in working with David too. But then that in his confessional, we hear that her flirting won't work on him and that he wants to go get an American out first. So he basically was just playing her in that conversation, which obviously we knew that right away. And I feel like Parvati had a little bit of a sense to it too. But do you think that Parvati should have told Rob about her connection to David here?
I see why she did it because obviously she saw that Rob and David had that little moment, that talk during the first reward challenge,
Yeah.
and she wants Rob and David to probably work together should they make the merge because she knows she's good with David. And so if she is good with David and David's good with Rob, then they can all kind of be a bit of a trio. So I see why she did it, and obviously giving somebody a little piece of information like that is a sign that you trust them and want to work with them, that you are willing to give them that little information that you haven't given to anyone else. So I understand that, but I I don't know that I would have done it. I just think like, or at least like maybe say it in a way where Rob doesn't think it's some sort of big thing. Like she could say, I think like she could have said it in a way of like, oh yeah, David and I did a show together. Like, just not anything major, not anything like where, oh, we were like this close and like this is a huge thing. We made it all the way to the end together, and he won $6 million, and we were mom and dad and had a son named Dixon. Like I don't think that she needed to like make it this huge deal. I just
Yeah.
think like she could have. It made it sound like something they did years ago, some quick like one day thing. I don't know. He wouldn't know. And I think that may have been the smarter way to go about it, where he's like, oh, okay, like those two know each other, like this could be something that's useful in the future, but like something he might have even like forgotten about a couple days later.
Yeah, no, I agree. She definitely made it seem like a little bit sus about how she brought it up there. But I mean, this game is pretty quick, so like you have to bring things up quickly in this, and when they're only there for like about 2 weeks total if you make it to the end.
Yeah,
So I think it makes sense to just in a way to try to build a connection there, but it didn't work out for in her favor here. Well, at this moment it seems
yeah.
like. But well, won't spoil it yet. What happens? But then we go to the AU tribe. So here we have clips of George talking about reuniting the Spice Girls and working with Shani again, and like they did on Heroes versus Villains. But Shani doesn't want to work with him because he betrayed her last time, so she doesn't trust him, and she wants to get revenge, and so she wants to make an alliance with Kirby. And so this is interesting. I haven't obviously seen the history there between them all, but do you think Shani is right by being wary of George, or should she work with him, given that they're pretty much only close to each other on the island?
I absolutely think that she is right to be wary of George. George is not a trustworthy ally. He is someone who will do whatever is best to make good TV, like George is happy to do. And he is going to make a moment out of everything. He did betray her. I mean, it was the two of them, and they had another ally that they were called the Spice Girls, and they were super close. They were super fun alliance to watch. Like they were really, really fun. They were kind of like they were on the villains tribe, like very much like trying to play into that villainy of it all. And they were really fun and they made it pretty far together. But then,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it was around like maybe final 8 or 9. George thought that Shani and their other ally were getting too close with each other and that he was kind of the odd man out. And so he banded together some other people on that tribe and got Shani out and blindsided her. And so, yeah, like I would never trust someone like that to work closely with again. I do think that it's smart of Shani to make George think that they're good at the very least, like pacify him so that he doesn't think that she's wanting revenge. Like, she be like, "We're good, totally fine," which she kind of did do. And
Yeah.
but I think she should not actually have him as a close ally. She should always keep him at a bit of a distance.
Yeah, I agree. I already am getting sus vibes from George, and I haven't seen him on the other seasons because he's also proposing an alliance with David and Luke and saying that they can be buffers for each other given their reputations and they can call themselves the Power Bottoms, which was a funny name. And David and Luke, however, say that they're really just humoring him and they don't really want to play with George. So it's kind of funny that everyone's kind of playing George on the Australian tribe here. So it seems like if they were to go, like George would probably go to tribal, they would probably vote out George first. I think they're kind of setting that up. I don't know if that's going to happen, but just in my mind, that's what it seems like.
Yeah.
So do you think that David and Luke should actually want to work with George, or do you think they should just get him out
I mean,
and do
look,
their
I
own?
actually don't think it's a bad idea for them to work with George because David in particular, huge target. I mean, David won the All-Star season of Australian Survivor. So, I mean, he is should be like a number one target on that tribe. And so I think keeping George in for like a week or two at the very least, not a bad idea for him potentially because George is somebody who is the I think only other person besides David who is potentially a bigger target than David just because of his reputation. So I would not. I think that David should think more about working with George than he seems to actually be thinking about that. And it would not be a bad idea for him, even though he probably shouldn't actually like trust him necessarily. But I think he should think about not having George be the first one voted out of their tribe.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I feel like they just are gonna he's gonna cause some drama, but that's entertaining for us, so that's fun to see. But then we get to the immunity challenge and the tribes have to work together to move a heavy staircase and they have to use it to climb over the wall. And then they have to use giant blocks to build another staircase to reach the top of the tower. And then finally, the two people from each tribe will then use a slingshot to fire coconuts at a series of targets, and they have to hit all of those down. So here, Australia wins immunity. It was actually pretty close when it seemed like until the end, and then like it seemed like Australia kind of had it there. But it was an exciting immunity challenge. So now World has to go to Tribal Council and after the challenge, Rob asked David to help him find the key to their mystery box. So another conversation between Rob and David here in a challenge. And he thinks it must be hidden at their camp. So I don't know because we haven't really seen much about this box yet. But do you think this key is hidden at Australia's tribe?
I never thought of that as a possibility until he said it, and then I was like, oh yeah, duh. Like that is very Australian Survivor, something that they would do. That is something that they have. I believe they've done things like that in the past for sure, where things are hidden at the other camp. I feel like even U.S. Survivor recently has done things like that. I can't like off the top. Yeah, because I think like we've seen like these idols that on U.S. Survivor that someone from each tribe has a piece of it and you have to make it to the
Yeah.
merge before it gets activated. You all three of you have to use it together. Like we've seen things like that before. So I think that that is a very very high possibility that that is the case and I actually think that's a really really fun twist if it is and I'm just very curious about what is in that box but I probably an
Yeah.
idol, right? I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe, and we'll have to see if that key is on the Australians' camp there, but we don't know yet because now we're going back to the World Tribe camp and we see them all talking game and who they're going to vote out. So Parv is with the four international players, and then Rob asks her who they're voting out tonight. She refuses to say a name and asks him the same question, and then he eventually says Sari, and she pushes back, which made Rob say, then let's actually, like that Parvati actually it should be the one to go after Parvati doesn't want to agree with him. So then he tells the internationals the plan and then tries to get Suri and Tony on board too to go after Parvati there. But then they agreed to his face, but obviously it didn't seem like that was going to remain true here, because they don't want to vote out Parvati. They want to remain U.S. strong until there's a point where they shouldn't. But at this point, it did seem like Suri and Tony were not going to go with that. But it did, like, overall, Rob was just trying to control this vote and wanting everyone to just target Parvati here. So do you think that Rob is coming off too strong here and just overall and trying to get this vote to be Parvati?
Yeah. I mean, I think that he's used to playing with newbies who probably he was much more easily to control on his season. And again, I have not seen his season, but I know that he was very dominant. And I think that he's probably expecting that he could kind of just do the same thing, play the same game here that he played before. But he doesn't know that he's playing with these legends that have done this many times before, some of them, and are not nearly as easily controlled and manipulated. And so he's learning that maybe that same style of gameplay is not going to work with a cast of all stars like this.
Yeah, very much so. Because then Parvati already can suss out the information herself because she goes to Lisa and Cass, who tell her that Rob was throwing out her name. So she got the information right away. Parvati knows how to work her magic. And then Parvati then tries to get them on board with voting out Rob due to his controlling ways. So then Lisa and Cass then go to Tommy and they debate which way to go. So at this moment, what did you think would be right for the rest of the world team, the non US people, for them to vote with the non US and get out Parvati, or to get out Rob here?
I actually don't know that I have strong feelings about this. I think that either way was not a terrible move for them. I because look, like it's a very easy move to just vote out Parvati or Suri or Tony and keep the four international players alliance strong. And I wouldn't begrudge them for doing that. I mean, I'd be really upset because I wouldn't want to see any of the three of them, the Americans, go. But I think that wouldn't have been a bad move for them. But I do think that it's hard to work with someone like Rob, and they probably just were annoyed by him trying to control and dominate things and all of their decisions. And so I don't begrudge them for going that way either. So I think that, yeah, I don't know what I would do in their position. I think that you just kind of have to assume that Rob was even more controlling and we more than we even saw, and it just probably got to be too much where they were like, let's just get him out.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's more like the personality at that point rather than like keeping the tribe strong and like the
Yeah.
physical aspect, which is like obviously a big factor because he's a very big man. And wanting to win challenges there, like you're gonna have less of a chance there. But how physical are all these challenges actually gonna be? Like we don't actually know
Yeah.
that yet.
And
So
I
I don't think that's a good reason.
and I think someone like Lisa probably would have had a really hard time voting off Parvati first. Like I just think as a fan,
Yeah.
she was probably like, I really don't want to do that. Like I don't want to be on a season where Parvati goes home first. Like what a disappointment that would be. So and she wasn't going to vote out Suri. So I just think that probably played into it a little bit as well.
Yeah, for sure. Then during Tribal, we see a moment there with Rob revealing Parvati's secret about playing Dondi with David. So that was an interesting moment that we saw. We get the full circle of this whole conversation of Dondi, but Parvati kind of more downplayed it here. Rob was trying to make it seem like it was a really big deal that they were working so closely together and all that. But then it's not enough to save him, and he is voted out in a 6-1 vote. So everyone voted for Rob except for Rob. He voted for Sri and didn't know how to spell her name.
I know.
But it's okay.
That's
But
a
now
that's a
he's
crime
gone.
enough to get him to
Yeah.
be voted out.
Exactly. So I was happy with this. Obviously, I knew it couldn't be Parvati because I was like, no, like they're bringing her back for this season. Like she's not going home week 1 or
Yeah,
episode 1, not even week 1, episode 1.
on her
So
birthday.
I feel on her birthday, she couldn't be
And we
going home
know
there.
from Kelly on Big Brother that birthdays are very important and you cannot vote someone out on their birthday.
Exactly. So I wasn't that surprised by this. I knew Parvati was having good conversations that I figured she was going to be able to sway the internationals to vote with her. So I was happy to see that.
Was really happy. I was worried. I was really, really worried for her, but very, very happy that it worked. And I think it was smart of her to kind of lie here and say that, oh, David betrayed me on Dondi. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's not how that happened, but I think it was
No.
smart of her to say that. And I do wonder, though, if that will, when they go back to camp, especially Suri and Tony are going to be like, why didn't you tell us about this? So, maybe
Yeah.
Suri knew. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if Suri actually knew when Parvati was filming Dondi, because I think the news came out while they were filming that Parvati and David were both playing
Mhm.
that. So Suri may have known, but I am curious when they go back to camp to see what happens with that and whether that continues to be a topic of conversation.
Yeah. No, I'm interested to see that as well. So I'm excited to continue watching Australian Survivor versus the world. It's going to be a great season. So very excited for this. Already off to a great start. But yeah, so thank you so much for listening, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and follow us on social media at Let's Chat Reality. And we'll be back chatting more reality TV next week. Thanks so much for listening.
Bye, everyone.